So when we were filing into theater, no one really knew who was on the show. Like, I had looked up in the morning, like I looked up first thing in the morning, I looked to see who the guests were this week, and the website said, guests for this week will be announced shortly, and I refreshed again, and then it put the guests up. So I looked at who the guests were on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I read that on Monday it was going to be Dennis Leary, and so I figured that's who I was going to be seeing. But then I was just talking to the other standby. Someone said that they just saw Dennis Leary leaving the theater, and then I realized that, okay, it's a Monday, and on Mondays they tape two shows. I had read this somewhere, that they tape two shows on Monday, and they have a show on Tuesday and Wednesday, and they used to have shows on Thursday, and then the Friday show was what they air on Friday was what they taped on Monday. But I think in the summer they don't do a Thursday show. So Friday is a rerun always, and Thursday is Monday's second show. So I was there for the taping of the show, which is going to air on the Thursday of this week, which is the 25th of August, 2011. So after realizing that I wasn't going to be seeing Monday's show, I had no idea who the guests were because I only scrolled down the page as far as Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I didn't even look at Thursday because Thursday was after I went back to Canada, and I wasn't going to see that show anyway, so I was really only interested in Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But I didn't have any idea who was going to be on the show until after I was inside the theater. But it turned out that the guests that were on the show that I watched was the actor Paul Rudd, the comedian Bill Burr, and a drummer. This week is called Drum Week 2. I guess I didn't see Drum Week 1, but it must have been a week where they put in, they got all these different drummers to do drum solos for the musical acts that week. So the drummer that was on the show that I saw was a man by the name of Dennis Chambers, who is the touring drummer right now for Carlos Santana. So right after you sit down at your seat, one of the first things they do is on the little TVs that are up in front of you, they put a little message on about the rules of the Late Show, and the guest that they have that does that, it was Alec Baldwin, who reads a little script about what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, and they have all sorts of rules about taking pictures and having cell phones turned off and blah blah blah, all those sorts of things. You can't yell stuff out or anything or do anything that's going to disrupt the show, because the show that's being produced is really not for the 500 or so people that are in the theater. It's going to be watched by so many more people from all over the world, and you're really there as a support of the show. You know, you're the laugh track for the show, so they want everything to be produced in the way that's going to be best for the people watching at home or on television. So after that little the video clip from Alec Baldwin, there was a guy that came out. We didn't really know who he was. He was just sort of an older gentleman that kind of he sort of did his own little monologue about current events that were going on and stuff like that. And then he talked about how tonight's show was going to run, how he was going to bring out members of the band who were going to start playing music, and then Paul was going to come out and he was going to play with the band, and then Dave Letterman was going to come out and he was going to let the audience ask him some questions and sort of introduce himself and do that sort of thing before the actual show started. So sure enough, the band came out and the band was phenomenal, just like they are on TV. A lot of really talented musicians right in that one spot. People that it's been the same band members on that show since I watched it when I first started watching when I was about 14 or 13 or whenever I started watching, like 10 years ago. It's all been exactly the same people on the show, and it's always great tuning in and seeing them. And it was really cool seeing them, 20 meters away from me, playing their music. And then Paul Schaefer comes out, who's really one of my musical heroes. Canadian guy from Thunder Bay that plays keyboards, as that was one of my trivia questions, and has a really good personality too. Like he's really Dave's sidekick when Dave he wants someone to talk to, and during the show it's a banter that sort of goes back and forth between Paul and Dave, and Paul will laugh at the jokes as well. You can hear Paul's laugh distinctly. So shortly after Paul comes out and starts playing music, then Dave runs out. He sprints his way onto the stage. I think he must do that or something to get energized. He likes to be, sort of out of breath, and he gets to get himself pumped before he comes onto a show. So he just sprints right out of the stage, and then he grabs the microphone that the host sort of guy that was talking to us already has, and he says hi to everyone. And he just, a little tiny monologue about current events that are going on, and then he asks the audience if they have any questions, And then one guy started to ask a question, and you could see that around there they were sort of counting down, and they really wanted the show to start right at 6 o'clock. Like they had clocks like all over the place. And even though the show doesn't happen live, they don't draw the show out like over a long period of time. Like the show airs on TV as an hour-long show, and although they cut it for commercials and stuff, they really do treat it just like a 1 hour show. So they want to start right on time, right at 6 o'clock. So while Dave started talking to the audience, all the producers and everything are kind of talking over him, and they're cueing Paul to start the band to play the theme song. And while Dave is still answering the question, the theme show starts, and they show on the TV screens the regular opening sequence where they have they have a shot of New York at night, sort of a plane flying through New York. And then it comes in and it goes over Paul Schaefer and the CBS Orchestra, and it says who the guests are going to be. And then the camera comes into the stage, and then it shows David Letterman. And I've always noticed, like in the more recent episodes, right when the camera comes into the studio, it used to be that they have this gate that opens up where Dave walks through the gate. And it used to be that Dave would be sort of walking his way up through that narrow part, and then the gate would open right before he walked through, and then it would come back down slowly behind him again. What I've seen in almost all of the recent episodes is the camera comes in, and it shows the place where he's supposed to be standing, and the gate opens, and he's not standing there, and then all of a sudden the camera angle sort of changes, and then you see Dave running across the back of the part behind the gate, and then you see him sort of walk out, and I never was sure why. Like I thought maybe he was in his dressing room or something, and he always underestimated how long it took to walk from his dressing room out to the stage. But in fact, the whole time, like right before, even when almost the whole theme song's going on, Dave's still standing like out in the middle of the stage, and he's talking to like his staff and stuff. And then he runs to the back of the stage, and then he runs across, and then he runs out. So he's really not like back hidden somewhere before the show starts. He just goes over there, and then he walks out before the show starts. But really, like, different than I expected at all. Like, they have all these like stagehands or producers or whatever they are that are kind of walking around the stage, and they're really the ones that are running the show. Like Dave is the big boss, but they'll cut him off, and they'll say, you play music, you stop talking, and he's to the mercy of how they want to run the show, and that's just because I guess they want to make the show exactly an hour long so it doesn't get dragged out over several hours of the audience being there. So Dave comes out and he does his monologue, and it's really interesting seeing the show from the perspective of sitting up there in the balcony and being live. Like, I just totally saw this show from a totally different perspective. Like, I didn't even really listen to the jokes, and I didn't really even like pay that much attention to the sort of the content, because I figured I'm going to be, when the show airs on TV, I'm obviously going to watch it, and I'm probably going to tape it, and I'm probably going to watch it, more than once, just to, fully appreciate what I saw with my own two eyes live. So I didn't really even pay that much attention to the actual content of the show. I was more looking at the things that you don't get to see from home. So like in between commercials, something I noticed immediately when it goes to commercials. Dave's sitting at his desk always, and it goes to commercials, and then it comes back, and Dave's still sitting at his desk. And you just sort of just figure during the commercial break, Dave's probably just sitting there. Maybe he's reading through his cue cards, getting ready for the next thing that's going to happen. But actually, as soon as the commercial break starts, there's usually like 5 or 6 people that all crowd around his desk, and they're handing him stuff, and they're talking to him, and they're writing stuff on cue cards, and they're feeding him a lot of stuff in preparation for the show. But the other fact that it was live, and kept thinking about, I wonder if they're going to cut this part out, or I wonder if how are they going to do this part? Like, what if he does the wrong thing? But even though it's not a live show, it really is treated like a live show. With all those people there, they don't really change a whole lot from what happens on the stage to what actually happens in real life. So just like on TV, like when the commercial break starts, the band starts playing, and the band plays that one song, and sometimes they stretch it out a little bit, and then Paul's given a cue from the people on the stage to end the song, and it's not like they just wait for him to finish the song. They tell him when he's got to finish, and he has to finish right at the right time, and they cut the song off in whatever way seems most appropriate, and they just come right back, and they really don't even consider the actual proper length of the song. They really just want to get this show back taping again just at exactly the right time. Another interesting thing I saw during one of the commercial breaks, so the band's all playing, and this makeup artist came over to Paul, and while he was playing, she put some makeup on his head. So he's playing the keyboard, and he's conducting his band, you know, with his head or whatever, and then she comes over, and I guess she makes eye contact with him, but then she just starts putting, like, powder on his head or something, and makeup, because, well, he's got a bald head, and it probably gets shiny when he sweats and the makeup comes off. So they're reapplying makeup to his head, so it will look good on the show, which, well, that was funny to see. So the show continues, and so the first guest comes on, and I don't know, it was really a whole lot different seeing these things happen in real life. Like, it doesn't feel like it's the real thing. It just feels like it was a rehearsal or something. Like, they're talking, and it's just a casual conversation. It doesn't even feel like it's the real thing at all. And another thing that happened, like, when the comedian came out, again, I wasn't really paying that much attention to the jokes that he was telling. I was more looking at Dave to see what his reaction to the jokes were. Because usually after a comedian comes on or a musician comes on, Dave will come over and he'll say, "Oh, that was great," or something. I really liked your jokes," or "Keep up the good work." "Oh, everyone go and see him," or whatever. You know, he really praises his guests and he really appreciates guests coming on. And I wanted to see whether he actually was, because during all the commercial breaks, he wasn't really listening at all to the band or anything. He just had, you know, people crowding around his desk. But I did see that he was just sitting there and listening to the comedian, and he was actually, like, appreciating the jokes. You could see him smiling and actually laughing along with the jokes, which was pretty cool to see. And again, I was just looking for things to watch that were going on that you don't get to see from home. And so the musical guest, again, as I said before, was a drummer, Dennis Chambers. Just basically did a drum solo that was accompanied by the Late Show Band, which was really entertaining to see. And at the end of the show, he said thank you, and he said good night to everyone. And then he asked the drummer to play again as they aired the credits. So that was cool to see as well. So that was basically the end of the show. And when the show ended, you know, everyone just